7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside Pacer Nation. I'm Marcus Johnson, and along with my co-host Jordan Phillips, we thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy our little in-depth analysis of the Pacer sports you know and love.
We are so very glad that you are willing to join us today for the second episode of Inside Pacer Nation.
We actually made it to 2 episodes. Imagine that.
Yeah, we're better than most TV pilots.
Why not? So we're going to do a quick recap of the rivalry night between USC Aiken and Augusta University. There were a couple games between men and women's basketball. Follow that up with a little bit of a more in-depth on spring sports that are coming up. And I think that's all we're going to do with that.
I think that sounds good. I mean, the first game you got to talk about is the women's game. They were successful in their attempt to take out Augusta University last night. Excellent game from them. I mean, they had 5 players in double digits. Players all over the team were playing excellent. I mean, they just were clicking the entire game. There was never really any point where the game was in doubt for them. I mean, they struggled a little bit early in the first quarter, finished 25-22, but then after that, they came out in the second half and just absolutely dominated. I mean, 21-12 in the third quarter, 27-20 in the fourth. Like I said, we struggled a little bit in the first half, but the women kept their heads up, and they came out in that second half, just absolutely dominated the game to win 90-78.
And several players had some standout performances. Carly Gilreath had another excellent performance, 17 points on the day. She was 4 for 4 from the charity stripe and managed to sink 3 three-pointer shots. That is a tongue twister if I've ever had one.
Yeah, I mean, Carly Gilreath, 5 of 7 total, 3 of 5 from downtown. I mean, it was like she couldn't miss. I mean, it seemed like every time she threw the ball up, it was going to go in. You know, she was absolutely on fire last night. And not only her, but players like Emily Waters, 5 of 11. She finished the game with 10 points. Rocky Apont, 6 of 14. Not that great, but then when you look at her three-point percentage, 6 of 10, that's 60% from three-point range. Finished with 19 points. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. When you can shoot that well from three-point range, you're going to have a good night.
And if they can keep that up, they'll be in a good position to take over the PBC. Right now, they are second in the PBC East, right behind Lander. Pacers with a conference record of 9-4. Overall, they're 13-9. But Lander is a team with a 7-3 record in the PBC and a 14-5 record overall. So pretty tight race there. They also have UNC Pembroke right there at 8-4 in the conference, 13-6 overall. So I mean, it's anybody's game right now, anybody's division, I should say right now. The West, on the other hand, that's a little bit of a different story. Columbus State, they're 11-1. It's going to be really tough for anybody to catch them for that overall conference record, and they're 17-1 overall.
Columbus State having a fantastic season, though. It'd be very interesting to see them take on the Pacers, which I believe they do later on this season.
Well, if that matchup does happen, it should be an entertaining game.
Absolutely. And now, of course, we'll have to move on to the men's game, which, unfortunately for USC Aiken, did result in a loss, 71-69, but that result is a lot better than it could have been. I mean, the Pacers came out and their offense just looked stagnant. I mean, it could not get anything done in the first half. 32-22 was the score going into halftime, but that's not a very telling score. There at the tail end, they scored a few points quick to make it a bit of a closer game, but a quick three-pointer to beat the buzzer by Augusta University set it up 32-22 going into the second half. But Coach Mark Vanderslice had to give those boys a really, really good speech at halftime because they came back out after halftime and they played excellent, outscoring Augusta University 47-39 in the second half. Unfortunately, just not able to get back into it. I mean, there was a couple of occasions where they would tie it up, and then Augusta University would go on a 8-0 run. You know, it was 2 separate occasions, I believe, where they were able to tie it up and then lost it. And then Henry Bolton III, I believe, knocked down a 3 late to bring them within 1, but then Augusta University hit a 3 right back after that to answer, and that led to just the foul game, free throws missing, and not able to quite get back into it for USC Aiken. So they did end up losing 71-69, but such a great game from the Pacers. I mean, they played excellent the entire second half. After a slow start in the first half, they played really well to come back into it after that.
And that's going to bode well for them because this is only the first time they're playing Augusta, who leads the PBC, their division. Pacers are right behind them, and I'll give you the numbers in a minute. But I just want to say they will play Augusta again at home on senior night, February 22nd. And if they're able to pick up right where they left off against Augusta, I mean, it could be a good game. It could be a Pacer victory, and it could result in determining who wins the division, who wins the PBC even. Because as soon as we get the stats again, have to go through a bunch of different tabs because we have very few computers at this university.
And playing a game with a team that leads the division so close, 71-69, only losing by 2 points, it's encouraging for the Pacers because now they know that they can play them close. And if you can play a team close, you can beat that team.
Looking at the records right now, Augusta University and USC Aiken are very close in the overall records, with UNC Pembroke hiding right below them. Augusta 16-4 overall, USC Aiken 14-6, and then you got Pembroke sitting there 14-7, half a game back of USC Aiken. And then you've got in the conference, Augusta University is 9-3, Pacers are 8-5. I mean, Pacers managed to, if Augusta loses one more conference game and they come in facing the Pacers the same number of losses, you know, that game could determine who takes home the division. And then once again you have UNC Pembroke just hiding right there, half game back at 7-5.
And the Pacers did lose to UNC Pembroke earlier this season.
That was a very tough loss, that game there, but you just got to bounce back. Come back stronger.
Well, actually, no, I'm incorrect. Sorry, they did not lose to UNC Pembroke. They won that game. They lost to Lander. That's who they lost to.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, that is my apologies. They did not lose to UNC Pembroke. They lost to Lander. My apologies.
Now that you mention it, I think you're
actually
right.
Because it was homecoming. That's right.
Oh yeah. Okay, now I remember because that was actually
they were losing early and then they came back.
Yeah,
to win
they stormed back.
That's
yeah.
right.
That's why I thought they lost because it was a tough game.
Correct. Okay.
All right, we got everything sorted out now.
Our apologies.
And once again, USC Aiken will take on Augusta senior night, February 22nd. That should be an entertaining game,
absolutely,
to say the least.
And we need to have a big crowd out for that. Their crowd last night was ravenous. I mean, they were packed out in that inside the Christenberry Fieldhouse. So we've got to show them how loud we can get in the Convocation Center right back.
All right, now moving right along now, we're going to finally start talking a little more about spring sports. We finally got a little more information, about ready to start those things up. And let's just be honest, I love the spring sports. They're so wonderful.
I've loved spring sports for nearly my entire life. I mean, you've got baseball, softball, tennis. It's all so exciting. And it's finally that time of the year, so let's get into it.
And men's tennis is what we're going to start with. The men's team, not too bad. The preseason rankings coming out, they're number 40 nationally, which... you're not top 25, but hey, you're doing pretty well if you're in the 40, if you're in the top 50, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean...
And Julian Tan is number 45 in the national singles ranking, so he'll be keep an eye on him, see how he does throughout the season.
Julian Tan had a pretty decent season last year, went 11-11 overall, and he was mostly in the doubles matches, it seems. So, a good season for him, 3-6 in the conference. So he'll be hoping to bounce back from that and get a little bit better in the conference play. But having a player on your team ranked nationally, it can't hurt things going into the season for Coach Dom.
Yep, I know Coach Dom does a good job with those guys. He doesn't have the biggest team in the world, but they get the job done. Absolutely.
They do well every year. They're a consistent team.
And also under Coach Dom's leadership, the women's tennis team, they're looking to have a pretty decent season. If you look at the numbers, they're number 30 nationally in the rankings. Nadine Tusiyama, ranked number 20, top 25 player right there for the women's team. That right there is gonna, it's either gonna make or break them. I think this season, either she's gonna come out and perform to her expectations, or other players are gonna see her with a target on her back and just go after her with a vengeance.
And that number 20 is national. That's not regional. That's not conference. That's number 20 national. So again, having a player that ranked, as you mentioned, ranked that high on your team can be a great thing for this tennis team.
And a little interesting fact, she is the very first USC Aiken women's tennis player to ever be named first team all-conference. So another good accolade. That just goes to show why she's number 20 in the nation. I mean, we could like to see some good things from this women's tennis team. I mean, call me optimistic, but should be good.
They had a decent season last year, 15-10 overall. They went 11-4 in region play. They did really well here, 7-3 at the tennis complex here on the campus of USC Aiken. Away from home had a little bit less success, 7-6, but that's not a bad away record. That's a winning away record. You can't ask for much better than that. They went 1-1 on neutral ground. So if they can cut down a couple of those losses at home and on the road, they could have a much more successful season even than they did last year.
And we'll look to them to hopefully bring home some hardware this
Absolutely.
year. And now moving on to softball. Good old softball. They had a great season last year, came up short in the conference championship game, losing in the championship matchup, but they're just coming back stronger. They're just going to come back stronger. Coach Snyder himself says that this is probably the deepest pitching staff he's seen as a coach, and that gets you excited if you know about pitching.
Absolutely, and as a fan of softball and baseball, hearing about deep pitching staffs, I love it. I can't wait to see if Coach Snyder's prediction comes true. We've certainly got some standouts on the team, including Haley Elkins, a transfer pitcher from Charleston Southern. She appeared in 48 games last year and started 31 of those. She had 11 wins, and 11 of those victories came in the form of a save. She had 3 saves as well. Tossed 13 complete games, which is incredible. 205.2 total innings and averaged 5.79 strikeouts per game, and she accounted for 170 strikeouts total. I mean, that's exciting numbers there. I mean, that sounds like it's going to be huge here at the USC Aiken for the softball team from Haley Elkins.
And having her is going to be great. I remember from last year, the pitching staff wasn't very deep. There were only maybe 3 starters that they would look to, and a lot of times, because they play doubleheaders, what would happen is you'd have the one starter come out for one game, and they'd either go a complete game, or they'd have to sit out a couple innings, and they'd bring in the starter from the next game or from the previous game. So they're really only working with 3 pitchers. They didn't really have much of a bullpen or anything like that. So their pitchers are really getting tired out there, and they still put up some decent numbers. And having a deep pitching staff, having a pitcher who's put up numbers like Haley Elkins has, is really going to be beneficial, especially with the doubleheaders that go on all the time for softball.
Yeah, we've brought in a number of transfer students: Chandler Terrapin from Western Carolina, Kristen Lowry from USC Sumter. I mean, we've got a lot of pitchers coming in, and we got a lot to be excited about as far as pitching goes, but not just pitching. I mean, we have returning players like Sydney Kate Murphy and Brielle Jungblood coming back to deepen the lineup for the Pacers on offense, and we'll see if they can make things happen there.
And having somebody like Brielle Jungblood is unbelievably valuable. She is one of the fastest people you ever see. I remember watching her games last year. She would be in the middle of her swing, and she's already halfway down to first base.
Absolutely, and she's not just fast. She can get on base. She suffered a little bit last season, 259 average on the season. But her freshman year, 375. I mean, if she can get back to those numbers this season with her speed on base, that can be deadly for the Pacers. But not just Brielle Jungblood. I mean, Leah Bogosian also has the ability to steal bases and get on. So the Pacers have some speed out there, and if they can just find somebody to get them across, if those two can get on base, if you can get those two across, you can score consistently and you can win games. And that's what's important for this Pacers softball team, is winning these games, getting players across for this deep pitching staff to take it into the later innings.
So USC Aiken softball will begin its quest for, I don't know, what do you want to say, PBC championship, regional championship?
Well, let's worry about just getting in the tournament first. But after that, sure, why not?
All right, so they'll start their quest for the tournament on February 11th at home versus Limestone College.
And we'd love to see you come out, but if you can't, you could always watch the game live on Pacersports.com. There's going to be a commentator who's devastatingly handsome calling that one. That is a guy named Jordan Phillips.
I thought it would be Chip Herring.
Oh, absolutely not. It's me. I'm going to be calling that game. So we'd love to either have you turn out, but if you can't make it out, be sure to watch us on the live stream as we call the action from the home opener against the Limestone Saints.
And now we go into the, I don't want to say the highlight, but it is a highlight for me since I love the sport so much. Baseball. Baseball. The Pacers coming into the preseason ranked in two different polls. They're ranked in the top 10. One poll, they're ranked number 5 in the nation. One poll, they're ranked number 10 in the nation. Either way you look at it, those are some pretty nice rankings.
Definitely. And the Pacers look to have another successful season, as they seem to always manage to do. I mean, they had such a successful year last year and had performances from players that you wouldn't have even expected, such as Max Schoen, who had a phenomenal season after being a fairly quiet player all year. Unfortunately, he did graduate, but they can carry that into this next season with players like Zach Moon, Mitchell Price, and those kind of guys, and just take their success to the moon.
All right, they've got a great squad this year. I remember watching all their games. Last year they went 40-18 overall, 20-10 conference record, going 28-5 at home. It helps when you play most of your games at home. That helps to pad your record a bit. But they ended up going all the way to the regional championship game. Unfortunately, they would lose there, but right now, they've got some high expectations. They've been picked to win the PBC this year. They've also been picked to win the region. I mean, that could be the kiss of death, or that could be the motivation they need to take it all the way. And they've got the weapons, like you were saying. Mitchell Price, this guy, I remember last year, was not a starter at the beginning of the year. Came in, and from every game from his very first, he got better and better and better. And unlike some of the guys, like you were saying, Max Schoen, guy had a phenomenal year. I mean, his final batting average is over 400. At one point, he was batting, I'm not even kidding, at one point he was batting about 600 on the year, and you couldn't stop the guy. But he did cool off. He cooled off near the end of the year, going from 600 to 400. Obviously, you're going to cool off.
If you can call that cooling off.
Yeah, I mean, you can only keep those kind of numbers up for so long, but he did cool off. Mitchell Price, on the other hand, I don't think his batting average went down. And if it did go down, it barely went down. He finished the year with a 300 batting average.
333.
Yeah, 333. And
that's 1 of 3 every game.
And, he's got the speed, too. He could go out there. He could snag fly balls from center field. He covered a lot of ground out there. He could steal bases when he needed to. And, I mean, they've got the weapons this year. I mean, they have lost a couple of guys, but this team's going to be a good team. Talked to a lot of different sources, a lot of different the broadcasters that covered the games last year, and they said pitching this year, which is the thing that I thought would be the major concern, is going to be good. And from what I've seen, yeah, I'll agree with that.
Absolutely. And I mean, and not just players like Mitchell Price and Zach Moon. I mean, you've got guys like Skylar Mercado hitting 300 last season at the leadoff position for the Pacers. If he can replicate that success this year, and players like him, Jonathan Banks, those kind of guys can replicate the success they had last year, then this can be a team that is pretty safe to say a region champion.
And the one thing that they were going to have to address, though, is going to be fielding. One of the things I noticed is there were a lot of errors on the infield last year. If they can address that, they didn't have a lot of trouble with batting. Batting was pretty darn good.
Absolutely.
I mean, they had a lot of guys batting over 300 and slugging it out, double-digit home runs throughout the year. Guys
like Zach Moon hitting 342 for the season with 16 home runs and 75 hits. I mean, those are good numbers.
Yeah, they don't have any problem with him, but they're going to have to address fielding, I think. If they really want to make a shot at the regional championship, they're going to have to watch out for third base. Third base has been their weak spot for a couple of years now. If they can fix that up a little bit, they should be good. You got Brian Pereira sitting over at first base. The guy's got a magical glove. I'm telling you, it's a solid glove over there. So if you can even just slightly alter your fielding a little bit, you should be golden.
One thing that's interesting to watch out for will be that left field spot. losing Chaz Powell after the last season. Be interesting to see who they stick over there.
I think they'll be okay with that. Chaz Powell did go down with an injury late in the year last year, and they filled that spot pretty well. They've got the players they need to fill it up. Zach Moon, obviously, he plays the outfield pretty well, even though he also plays catcher. You got Niall Goings. Niall Goings, he's a bit of a streaky kind of guy when it comes to the plate, but his glove is pretty good. You can put him out there in the outfield and get some good results, and you work on his batting, make him a little bit more consistent. He'll be a dangerous weapon for this team.
And you've also got guys like Luke Westerberg who can play in that position as well. So we'll see what they do with that. But it'll be an interesting spot. It'll be interesting to watch this team this season if they can replicate last season's success, or even go even farther beyond what they had last year. That'll be a very interesting team to watch. I mean, this is the team to beat in this conference and even in this region.
And as you are listening to this podcast, the baseball team is most likely warming up right now. They will be taking the field Friday, that's today, against Lincoln Memorial to open up the 2017 baseball season.
And I am so very excited. And once again, come out to Roberto Hernandez Stadium, watch that game. And if you can't, tune in on PacerSports.com. Marcus and I will be doing the commentary for that one. And we know how much you guys love to hear our voices.
And that about sums everything up here. Not much more to cover, I'd say, unless you can think of something.
I think we're about good, but I can imagine the next episode of Inside Pacer Nation will be very interesting. We'll be in full swing of baseball season, full swing in softball and tennis as well. Golf team will be getting started up shortly after episode number 3. I believe we're going to do a preview of that next episode.
And the golf team... Golf team always has high expectations. I mean, when you're the only team at the university that's won a national championship, in fact, you won 3 national championships, the expectations are there, and they always put up a good show. They always do well. I mean, this is a golf region, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got the Augusta National and just 20 minutes up the road.
The Augusta National, what's that? Is that the host of a big tournament or something?
Something like that. I think it's sort of a big deal. I'm not sure of that.
Whatever it is.
But, I mean, and so spring sports will be absolutely in full swing. We should have some more information about the basketball team next episode. And it should be a fun episode. Episode number 3. It's going to be a very exciting one, very fun to look forward to.
It's right around the corner, along with the end of the fall sports and beginning of spring sports. Thank you for joining us on this, our second episode of Inside Pacer Nation. We look forward to joining you again for episode 3, whenever that comes out. And along with Jordan Phillips, I'm Marcus Johnson. We thank you and have a wonderful day.